Tom, how are you?
Yes.
I forgot the Marshall, the PRS guitars.
Oh, yeah.
Are those? Is this a?
It's actually
it's a Eddie
not
Van
a
Halen,
PRS.
right?
That's a Music Man, but
Nice.
still,
Okay.
I respect that. PRS is great. Yeah, I was just taken aback by that super melodramatic open there, like the intro.
Yeah.
That's right. Got to hype you up just right.
I was gonna say, yeah, what, you couldn't get John Williams to come in and do something?
Well, yeah, he's in retirement. It's hard to get him to do anything these days.
His supposed retirement.
That's what he tells you guys. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's
we
right.
told you he's retired.
Yeah, no problem. I can do that movie. You guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tom knows things, though. Well, Tom, it's wonderful to have you here. We're always excited when we get to talk to you. You've been a good friend of our shows for a couple of years now, and certainly with Podathon, you support that. In case there's somebody here who doesn't know Regal Robot, who doesn't know Tom Spina, other than the person who haunts all of our checkbooks every time a new post pops up with a new product, tell us a little bit about who you are, what Regal Robot is.
Sure. I mean, if there are people like that out there, I mean, what a terrible, pitiable existence they must lead. I'm Tom Spina. I have two companies, Tom Spina Designs and Regal Robot. With Tom Spina Designs, we make and sculpt and create, and we do everything from bronze sculptures, wax figures, monsters for TV shows and things, and commercials and whatever else, and restore the original props that were actually used in all of our favorite films. And even make some really fun stuff for theme parks and stuff when those fun jobs come along. Regal Robot kind of grew out of some stuff we were doing there, and we developed this long relationship with the Lucasfilm Archives and with Lucasfilm and Disney over the years, doing all these other projects. And so with Regal Robot, we get to take those FX skills that we had and put them to use making cool stuff for people to take home. And that stuff happens to be licensed, official Star Wars and Indiana Jones stuff that ranges anywhere from really weird and unique decor and low price stuff that just about everybody can afford, to really, really high end crazy replicas that are on a different side of the spectrum. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
I love the stuff that you've made in the smaller form stuff, because they're just like cool things that you're like, I didn't realize I needed that. Like I have the little timer bomb that the Mando has,
Mandalorian grav charge magnet.
Yep. And I also have over here, I have why can't I think of the word now? The thing that you put on the robot so they don't restraining bolt.
Droid restraining bolt. Yes.
Yes.
I almost called it a droid collar.
Wow, you're making stuff up now. That's awesome.
That's right.
And you also make miniature versions of some of your things. Like I have the small Tauntaun head on a magnet.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. But we and you get all that stuff at regalrobot.com, right?
That's
all that
correct.
Stuff.
Find all that stuff bringing that up
right there. And like you said, it does range. It's like $25 to hide it from your wife kind of money, which is
right. Yeah. like literally like $20 to $20,000 is on the site. Legitimately, those two numbers are basically on like $19.99 and $19.99. You're like, it's that kind of range. But you're talking about somebody who's getting maybe a magnet of a mythosaur, or a tin sign of really cool vintage poster, all the way up to a life-sized Chewbacca that is Peter Mayhew size, fully haired with a bowcaster, and all of this stuff that's quite a different point on the spectrum in terms of the amount of work that goes into it.
And it all looks great. And honestly, the 1999 things look just as good as the big stuff. So
I appreciate that. We put a lot of heart into even the small stuff, and a big part of what we do is that nearly everything is made by hand by the crew in New York. If you're getting a magnet and it's resin, someone had to first we had to model that original master. We had to make molds. Someone's pouring it. Someone's pulling it, sanding it, gluing the magnet in, hand painting it. And that same level of care applies to both those magnets and then the crazy high-end stuff and all of the collectibles in between.
Well, and you've done so many I'm sorry, Pete, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, you've done so many custom things, and you can see those on your website. You guys show that stuff off sometimes. I can speak from experience and say even that stuff is amazing. I had the opportunity to visit Brian and Holly Fry's Cabe's Oasis Cantina and got a chance to sit in some of the chairs and check out the tables and some of the other cool stuff that you guys have done. And it's absolutely just first rate. So anybody else that's building a cantina at your house, Tom's your guy.
That's it. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That Holly is one of my favorite people on the planet. And oddly enough, we met at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando, probably 2017, maybe. It was the first show that we did with Regal Robot. And at the time, we had a coffee table that looked like the action figure carry case. And when you open the coffee table, we even had dividers in it. And those dividers were actually sized to 12-inch action figures, just in case anybody wanted to use it that way. And so she came by the booth and she's freaking out because there's a dewback that we turned into a sofa. And so she's losing her mind for that. And then I'm like, oh, take a look at this coffee table. And she's like, is that the action figure? And I open it up and she sees the divider and she shrieks. She's like, Jesus Christ and a cracker. And just loses her mind. And I was like, I will go to battle for this woman. This is this is a friend for life now. And you know, we have since had some wonderful long chats on her podcast, if I can mention that.
Sure.
And off. And she's genuinely her and Brian are just outstanding people. And working on their cantina, you know, for their house was a dream. We've done a lot of that stuff over the years, both, you know, doing stuff like either for sets or for people or for homes, decking out home theaters and things like that. And, you know, sometimes it's as small as just doing pieces that would enhance someone's place. Sometimes it's doing whole rooms, you know, turning someone's house into a cave, turning something else into, like, you know, with Death Star theming and stuff, you know. And then other times she had this basic plan for the room and said, like, what can you do? What can you bring to this? And let us, you know, dream. And we sketched up a whole bunch of different ideas, and then she picked the one she likes, and then we dialed it in and wound up making, you know, a whole bunch of pieces for it that were a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
It's fantastic.
That's so cool. And not only that though, but you got your start, or I don't know if you got your start or not, but you do a lot of work with restorations. I have to ask briefly about is restoring the mask for Tobias Forge from Ghost. I didn't realize you I'm a big Ghost fan, but
that came out of left field. I mean, there's like
you're like, wait a
Star Wars stuff. Like he's from Spielberg movies. He's like Ghost,
right? Let's talk
about Swayze movie, and he was like, no.
Yeah, no, you redid the
he looks older than
pottery,
he
right?
must be. I thought, so that was a case where that was for a collector. It was someone who had, you know, one of the stage worn masks. And that's a mix, you know. So I would call that conservation rather than restoration, and that's a whole spectrum of what we do. You know, it's anywhere from preventative to stabilizing to, you know, minor restoration to entirely restorative type work, depending on what the piece is, what it needs, what the person's like, what their, you know, feelings are about that stuff. Every collector is different. And in this case, we had someone who had this mask, but, you know, gravity is a harsh mistress, as the Tick used to say on the old cartoon show. And so over time it's starting to droop, it's starting to pull away. It's silicone, that's a heavy material. It doesn't have a lot of integrity to itself. So, you know, you have to be a little aggressive in how you conserve that. And so, we basically got it back into shape. We created an underform that would mimic, you know, without having Tobias's life cast or anything like that. Had to reverse engineer, like, what does this need to look like underneath in order to fit this thing on the outside, and then you know, adhere stuff and re-support things and put some internal patching to hold things up and stuff like that. And I mean, the end result, it's funny, it's not as dramatic as some of our other before and afters. I don't know why I keep doing this today. That's fun. Our before and afters, but the end result is kind of striking, and it shows how, and this I've always noticed just as a sculptor, when you're working on a human face, the tiniest adjustment is a massive difference, you know. And you could be sculpting someone and be like, something's a little off in the like nasolabial folds around here, and you just move one of them like a 1/16 of an inch, and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, there it is. And if you were wrong, it's oh god, it doesn't look anything like him. And then bink, oh yep, nope, now it's good.
Right, yeah. Well, and you've also restored some amazing Star Wars pieces. I would love to hear about one particular Cantina character that you're proud of.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Okay, people who know me, even people who know of me, probably know the Cantina is like my thing. I have been obsessed with it since the movie came out in 1977, and the opportunity to just be around any of the original Cantina stuff is something that I feel completely fortunate to have had, and over time to have had that often. I mean, nobody gets to say that, to be able to go like, oh yeah, I've been around most of the screen use masks from that movie at some point from that scene, or props and costumes, and to have gotten to know the people that worked on the scene and call some of them good friends now is just crazy to me. Right. But yeah, Muftak is obviously a favorite character of so many people. There he is. So that was in the collection of my good friends Bob and Kathy Burns. Kathy is sadly no longer with us. Bob actually is doing great, and it's this is a piece that he got from Rick Baker back probably in the 80s. It had been at Rick's studio for years, hanging out, collecting shop dust and all of that stuff. And then it went to Bob's place, and it was on a kind of like a coat rack kind of stand. It wasn't really anything that was made to conserve the piece. And over time, gravity was having its way with it. The materials were starting to deteriorate. Some of the stitching was coming undone. Things were separating. The foam underneath was deteriorating a bit, and the fur was extremely matted and dusty. So what you're seeing here, this is actually like stage 3 of our work. So this is us shampooing Muftak, which we did twice. That's Melissa on the left with me and Christine on the right. Both still with us. Melissa's actually been with us for over 12 years now. Christine over a decade. Both outstanding artists and just customer service people too. Christine now helps run the office. And but yeah, so we got in there. You could see we're giving him a good scritch too. This was something where we treated him. It was technically 3 passes. There was a vacuum pass where we did where you take like a vacuum with a pair of hose over it, like pantyhose, so that you can't accidentally suck something up. And it's a way that you can clean like stuffed animals and stuff. So we did a pass with that first, and that got pretty good. And then we went in and we had a special shampoo for artificial fiber hair, and we used that twice to get all of that muck out. And the end result is really striking. And yeah, there's some of the team. And it was just and Melissa's dog Rocket. Right. But it really it's a dramatic before and after. And it's a piece that I felt so lucky that we could get in studio and save. And it's one of these things where even the feel of it, like when it came in, it felt like every time you touched it, something was going to fall off or something was going to break. And the hands are latex, and they were breaking down. And we went in and we resupported everything. We put stuffing in things. We added an underform that was made to fit the figure and support that big head. And when he left, he's solid and he's secure, and he just feels like he's ready to face the next 50 years or something like that. And I dare say he looks pretty good.
Fantastic. Looks so good.
Yeah, truly fantastic. And I want to ask you about.
I'm one of 3 people in the world that's ever shampooed a towel.
I mean, seriously, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No. Except
I want to get us.
Maybe you will.
Well, then again, you might absolutely. I want to get us off track again. I'm not going to go with Ghost this time, but I am going to get us into as much as I love Star Wars. There is one other property that I love almost equally as much, and it's another one that you guys are doing a bunch of work in right now, which is Indiana Jones. I keep seeing these little teases of there's things coming that I know you can't talk about, but tell us about the Indiana Jones work that you guys have been doing. Just go ahead and make me as jealous as you possibly can.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with Indiana Jones. It is, right up there. There's Star Wars, there's Indy, and then you get in. For me, it goes into like the old Universal monsters and Young Frankenstein and that kind of stuff, and then Ghostbusters and all the Hammer movies, and there's and Star Trek as well. But and then of course the list just goes on forever because I'm like, and this, and this. But no, Indy is neck and neck. I mean, and how crazy is that you have somebody like George Lucas that spits out not just one completely iconic, timeless, IP, for lack of a better word, but Indy as well. That's crazy to think about,
Right.
But yeah, I am so excited about the stuff we've been doing. At the moment on the site, we've got a nice range of decor stuff. We actually, if anybody happened to miss out on our Holy Grail prop replica, we actually just put that on wait list because we're just finishing up shipping most of those. We made 500 of those at the New York shop. And at the end of the process is when we start hitting the wait list up. So if you missed out on that Holy Grail, it's scanned off of the real prop. It's hand painted by my team in New York. They look beautiful. They're really, really consistent with the paint and all of that too. And they come, wrapped in a piece of cloth with twine and the hay around it and everything. It's a really fun piece. And there's going to be a handful available for wait list. So if you missed the Grail, this is the time to visit our site and hit that waitlist button. The stuff you just showed are some wall decor pieces that are still available. So those guys on the end are 15-inch square. They're big and chunky and awesome. And for anybody that didn't already immediately recognize them, they're the dart shooting traps from the Chachapoyan temple at the beginning of Raiders. They do not shoot darts at anyone.
Oh, man.
It's safe to put in your house. You can walk through a sunbeam and you're fine. Or I guess, no, those were the pressure traps, right? The sunbeam is what kills the Tipo.
Right.
Sorry, Alfred Molina. Sorry for anybody at home. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But so we love taking stuff like that, though, where it's like, oh, this is a thing that you see in the movie for like a split second, but it's a memorable moment and it's a memorable thing. And like, how can we make something that you can put on your wall out of that? And so, this is something that's digitally sculpted by Kristen Maggi at the Chop, who is an outstanding digital artist and has seen scans of tons of original props in all of his work with us. So he understands that feel that original stuff has and brings that into even the recreations like this one. We sculpted up. So two of those big guys, they look great on either side of a mantle or a fireplace. And the coolest thing about the indie stuff is you can put a lot of it on the wall and people will come in and just think that you're classy and into like old artifacts and not that you're a nerd.
That's how I'm going to start selling that to my wife.
That's it. Yeah, look, we're here to back you up. And then, the other thing is the people who do get it, they're going to come in and you could do like the Boba Fett nod, like the little like, it's like when Boosh pulls out the thermal detonator. Nice move.
He's like, nice move. I get it.
Art face on the wall. I got you. Like one of those. And the other one, of course, though, is the Grail tablet from Last Crusade, which is such a fun movie. And that is based on a high resolution scan of one of the original props. And it's, again, all made in the USA, hand painted, it's rotocast polyurethane resin. It's not polystone or anything. And it's got 2 holes on the back so you can hang it on a wall. That is ours on the top and a movie shot on the bottom for anybody who wasn't sure.
Fedora, not glitter.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, today you also were releasing information about your Wampa. Give us a little bit of information about that. And
yeah. Oh, and it was Nick who was asking about. I'm pointing the wrong way. Nick was asking about the what's coming up from Indiana Jones. So what's coming up is.
We seem to be losing it. Yeah, we're losing it.
I'm so sorry.
You're going through a tunnel.
Oh well, we'll move on. No, so we do have an Indiana Jones prop coming. This is what I can say. Prop replica out on on or around first week of February, so very soon. Temple of Doom for the 40th anniversary of the movie. So it's going to be awesome. We just finished got our sign off on our first round of production samples to make sure that everything was right with the castings and the materials and the colors and the paint. And we're in the process of now getting our final Disney Lucasfilm sign-offs and doing all our photos and stuff for the website. It's going to be a mad dash the next couple of weeks as we finish all of that up. And complicating the mad dash is that our entire studio is covered in Wampa hair. So these are the things that we worry about. Oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's
as long as we don't start with an extreme close-up, everybody's going to be fine.
Right. Oh no. So tell us a little bit about this bad boy. This one is so cool.
Thank you. So in the movie, they tried to shoot the Wampa in Finland, Norway, and in the UK with a costume that Stuart Freeborn's team made. And as cool as the costume looked great. The head didn't really look outstanding. And the costume was unfortunately unwieldy. They had a very tall guy in the costume named Des Webb. I believe he was even taller than Peter Mayhew.
Oh, really?
But they had him on like 2.5-foot bucket stilts, and he was just unable to really move around at all. The costume was too heavy, too bulky, all this stuff. So when they came back to the U.S., Phil Tippett and Ken Ralston, John Berg, and all of these guys said, George, you can't put that in our movie. Like, that's like, we're going to be embarrassed. You got to let us do something. And according to Phil, George said, okay, but you got to do it fast. And part of the reason was because they had very little time before the movie was released. But the other part is George probably didn't want to pay too much. So Phil created a small scale puppet to use as an insert for the first time you see the creature. So when he attacks Luke and he does the what's the matter, girl? You smell something? And the Wampa pops up and then swipes him. So that first pop-up, that's the puppet. And then after it swipes Luke, it goes back and it roars at the camera again. And that also is the puppet. And then it cuts back to a big life-size arm, strangling the Tauntaun. Again, spoiler alert. Those iconic first looks at the character were actually a 12-inch tall puppet. And so what we have done is replicated that puppet, which is still in the Lucasfilm archives. It was one of my top things I wanted to see at the archives the first time I went over, it's about 12 years ago now. I was so excited to be going, and that was a big reason why I was excited. I was like, oh, I hope it's there. I hope it's not on tour. I've been dying to see this thing in person. And every time I've seen it since, something new has been revealed to me. And we have now seen it 3 times officially. So back in the day, I used to just go to visit, like you do.
Sure.
But I have since now for years been going officially and going to research things and having stuff pulled for us to get really up close with, not just looking at it on a shelf, but to examine it literally sometimes for days. Measuring it and 3D laser scanning it and color matching things and bringing in swatches of hair and fur and matching things and eyes and teeth and all kinds of fun stuff. Every time we saw it, it's just something new would come out. There would be some new element that we would find or discover. And this replica is a culmination of all of that work. And I'm really proud of what we put together. It's something where we went back to the drawing board a few times on this because we made new discoveries. And what's hilarious is the most recent discoveries that actually I was like ready to do the final paint on our final prototype. And I wound up having to, we wound up redoing the insides of the mouth because the last time we went to the archives a few months ago, we took an endoscope. And we actually put the endoscope into the mouth and got to see teeth that were so far in the back that you couldn't see them, and to discover a couple of things on either side of the tongue and stuff like that. And we, of course, now, scrapped our current thing, updated our files, redid the output, redid the prototypes, and then that became our final. And it's hilarious because then after the fact, we're going, well, wait a second. if you can't see it unless you literally have like an endoscope,
right?
Who's ever going to know this is in here? Why are we doing this? And the reason is because that's us. That's what we do.
That's what you guys do.
It's a testament to who you guys are.
And there is no detail too small.
And speaking of details, I was watching the Facebook Live this afternoon, and you said something that was really interesting. Tell us about the back of the Wampa, because
yeah. So this is one of those weird times. So we have to decide sometimes whether we're going to be replicating what the prop is, replicating what the prop looks like on screen, replicating how it is now, replicating how it was then. And so there's a lot of these discussions go on where sometimes we'll find like one of the maquettes. We've been doing these replicas of concept maquettes from Return of the Jedi, which are just amazing little sculptures by people like Phil Tippett and Ken Ralston and Dave Carson and Chris Wayless and Judy Elkins and all of these amazing artists that contributed to, and if I didn't say Tippett, contributed to this scene in Jabba's palace and created all of these amazing monsters. And sometimes going through those, they'll have like a piece broken off, and I'm like, if we can find vintage reference that shows us that piece was definitely on it during the production of the movie, we will usually put it back. And if we can't, then sometimes we have to say that, okay, maybe this is how it was at the time, and that's the way we're going to make this. With the Wampa, when Phil made it, he only cared about the side facing the camera. And the very back of the Wampa, the middle back section, is just exposed, chopped up couch foam and mechanisms. So we couldn't really deliver that to people's homes. So instead, we actually finished the back with fur and distressing and everything like that, and made it a more complete piece. Basically, we did Phil's job for him. Come on. But it's a wicked little piece, and it's something. It's actually, I keep saying little. It's pretty substantial, especially when you compare it to a lot of those maquettes that we've been doing. But yeah, it's about 13 inches tall on the base. The base is 19 1/4 wide, so decent shelf presence. About 12 inches deep too.
It looks truly fantastic.
So great. So it's available now for order?
So it goes up for order on the 20th of February at 12 noon Eastern. We have two different editions. There's a Phil Tippett Signature Edition, and then there is a Phil Tippett Legacy Edition. Our Legacy Editions are sketch editions. And what we do is we have the artist make 100 unique hand-drawn sketches, and you get one of those hand-drawn sketches with everyone in that edition. So if you pick up the Legacy Edition, you get a hand-drawn sketch by Phil Tippett and a Phil Tippett autograph and a Wampa. So really, really something that is super unique, super special, very rare when you're talking only 100 or something in the world. And the Legacy Edition on this is $2,999, all hand finished in New York, hand painted, hand stained teeth, all the muck, all the grime, all the hair, all the stuff dripped into the hair, etc. And then $24.99 for the Signature Edition. There are only 125 Signature Edition pieces available, only 100 Legacy Editions available. Wow. When we did our last Legacy Edition with Phil Tippett, that was the Rancor maquette, and the 100 pieces for that one sold out in 10 minutes.
Holy cow.
I don't know how this one's going to sell. It's a little bit more of a higher price point, but it's a more popular piece so far, at least judging by the reaction we've seen on social. It's going to be a very interesting week, that's for sure. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, anybody interested should stop by our site on the 20th at noon. I would not be late. And I would also say, go to the Regal Robot website and sign up for the email newsletter. And then that way, whenever something like this comes out, you'll get an email telling you it's coming out. We don't spam people. We don't send out a bunch of nonsense. So, we only send details when something new is coming out or we have a coupon.
And there's always great stuff, and as we said before, like there's indie stuff, there's Star Wars stuff, there's so much stuff coming down the pike. So, Tom, we could keep you here for days talking about this, but the good news is you got more stuff coming, which means we need to have you come back on, tell us some more stories. We'll have you on again sometime. Tom, give that website address one more time.
Absolutely. Go to either tomspinadesigns.com, regalrobot.com, and look at Tom Spina Designs or at Regal Robot on all the socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that. And by the way, please, if you're on Facebook, look up the Regal Robot Fan and Collector Showcase group. Really, really fun group. A lot of great people, a lot of humor there, and a lot of behind the scenes pictures you're not going to see, and contests for things like production used pieces from the movies and books and magazines and all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, definitely check
it's a
that
good
out.
group. I'm in there. It's fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Tom, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're so excited to see more stuff coming, and we will be keeping up with you, and we're definitely having you come back sometime.
Terrific. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a great night.
Thanks, Tom.